The Incredibles is an amazing franchise with a universe that still has a lot to explore. Did you know that the first two movies raise several questions that still need to be answered in the third film, The Origin of the Supers? In the Incredibles universe, there are many people with special abilities who fight crime. They're known as supers. But unlike the Marvel and DC movies, the origin of these powers has never been explained. We have no idea why Mr. Incredible is so strong, or why Elastic Girl can stretch her body. Could it be that supers are simply another race of humans, and all of them are descendants of older supers? Well, that's possible. Another theory many fans believe is that the Golden Age supers were all created in government labs. After all, the National Supers Agency, also called the NSA, had total control over them. Either way, the supers were raised as regular people until they discovered their abilities. After all, the heroine Psychwave once said she discovered her mind control powers during her teenage years. A deleted scene from The Incredibles 2 shows that Gazerbeam lived as a civilian for quite a while after discovering his powers, and only decided to become a hero after being convinced by Mr. Incredible. So if the government really was behind giving these two their powers as children, they still had the freedom to grow up as normal people and use them however they wanted until they became heroes. There's also the possibility that in the end, supers are just ordinary people who randomly awaken their powers at some point in life. We can't be sure which of these theories is the real answer, but the next movie has the perfect chance to finally reveal the truth. And that's just one of the 8 questions that need to be answered in The Incredibles 3. Get comfy and come with us because another Cine wave is about to start. Will Jack still be powerful? So far, Jack is the most powerful super ever shown in the franchise. The only thing keeping him from being the best superhero ever is that, well, he's still a little baby with zero control over his abilities. But everyone expects that to change in the future once Jack grows up. The question is, will he really be that powerful when he's older? You'd expect so, but there's no 100% guarantee. Why? Because it's already been confirmed that it's normal for super babies in this universe to show off several different powers, many of which disappear as they grow, leaving only a few behind. That's because in The Incredibles, superpowers seem to be connected to the user's personality. Dash is fast because he's hyperactive. Violet turns invisible because she's shy, and so on. Since babies don't yet have a defined personality, they can develop a variety of powers as they grow. Brad Bird even confirmed this, describing Jack as a blank canvas, which is exactly why he's so powerful. So, will he become an average super with just 1 or 2 abilities once he grows up? Well, not necessarily. Even though most super babies have multiple powers, Edna Mode makes it clear in the second movie that Jack's case is unusual. Even babies don't usually have that many abilities. So yes, it's very possible that he'll stay ridiculously strong. Even if Jack loses most of his powers, he'll likely still have quite a few left, or maybe just the very best ones. Our theory, we think Jack will keep all the powers related to transformation, like turning into a demon, metal form, or even a goo creature. He's got a lot of powers like that, and it would make sense for them to stay, since they could be seen as an evolved version of Elastic Girl's elasticity. While Elastic Girl can stretch and reshape her body, her son can literally transform into almost anything. If The Incredibles 3 takes place a few years after the second movie, as many fans theorize, we might finally see what happens to Jack's powers. Where is the Underminer? The Underminer appeared at the end of the first movie with the Parr family getting ready to fight him. Since The Incredibles 2 picked up right where the story left off, we finally got to see that long-awaited battle. And wow, it really was long-awaited considering it came 14 years after the original movie. But to everyone's surprise, the Parr family's big battle was kind of a disaster. They ended up causing more chaos than good and didn't even manage to capture the Underminer, who escaped and never showed up again. Yes, the villain stayed free until the very end, while the heroes were too busy stopping Evelyn Day's evil plans and the Screenslaver's mind control attacks. That means he could easily come back as a threat in The Incredibles 3. We have no idea where the Underminer went, but we seriously doubt he's done making trouble. If you'd like to see him return too, drop a comment below with #Underminer. Does Zerich exist? Did you know that originally the villain of the first Incredibles movie wasn't supposed to be Syndrome, but a man named Zerich? He was meant to be a very evil guy, completely obsessed with Elastic Girl, who used twisted experiments to keep himself eternally young. Seriously, At one point, Zerich was supposed to have caused the death of every person born on a specific day just to stay young forever. That's incredibly dark for a kid's movie. He was ultimately scrapped from the first production, but does that mean the character no longer exists in the Incredibles universe? It's actually very likely that he still does, especially since Zerich appeared in the Incredibles comic books. He was an extremely manipulative and ruthless villain, practically defeating the heroes completely. Since the comic series ended up being canceled, we never got to find out how the team would have managed to stop him. The comics don't take place in the same timeline as the movies. They exist in a separate universe. But that doesn't mean the Incredibles 3 can't borrow elements from them, especially when it comes to Zerich, who isn't even an original comic book creation, but rather a character who was planned to be part of the movies from the very beginning. Will Mirage return? If you've seen the first Incredibles movie, you probably remember Mirage, Syndrome's assistant. Her role in Project Kronos was to contact the supers and convince them to go on fake missions to a deserted island where they'd end up being destroyed by the Omnidroids. However, after realizing that Syndrome never actually cared about her, Mirage decided to betray him and freed Mr. Incredible. Later, she even helped him and his family escape from the villain's island. After that, we never learned what happened to her since the second movie never mentioned her again. Still, it's very possible that Mirage managed to escape and is still out there somewhere. The third movie would be the perfect opportunity to bring her back, maybe even as an ally of the Incredibles. In the Incredibles comic books, Mirage became an agent for the NSA and even ended up working alongside the heroes. As we mentioned earlier, the comics unfortunately aren't canon in the movie timeline. But just like with Zerich, Mirage's future could easily be adapted for the films. It would be awesome to see Mirage redeem herself for her past crimes and become a secret agent for the NSA. Is Project Kronos really over? Speaking of that, what about Project Kronos itself? Did it really end after Syndrome's defeat in the first movie? The event seemed to suggest so, but there are a few hints that might mean otherwise. Sure, Syndrome is gone, but his inventions are still out there. He had an entire island full of robots and extremely advanced weapons. It's said that the government froze all of his assets, but what if all that technology ends up being used for a new version of Project Kronos? That would be a massive threat for the Incredibles in the next film, especially now that superheroes have been legalized again. It would be easier than ever for the people behind this new Project Kronos to track down supers. After all, they'll be everywhere fighting crime out in the open. Don't forget, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you never miss any of our videos. Will Gammajack return? You might already know Gammajack, especially since he's recently caught the attention of a lot of Incredibles fans. The Golden Age hero was known as a real ladies' man, but the information the NSA had on him gave everyone plenty of reasons to realize that something was seriously off about him. Gammajack had the ability to create radioactive explosions, but honestly, his personality was just as toxic as his powers. In one interview, he openly admitted that whenever he was rescuing people, he always prioritized saving pretty women first before anyone else. Yes, even if someone else was in much greater danger. On top of that, Gammajack saw supers as superior beings compared to regular humans, which perfectly explains his arrogant behavior. Some people found it really strange that Gammajack was one of the supers taken down by Project Kronos. Why would the creators bother giving such weird and controversial traits to a character who isn't even alive during the events of the movies? But that's where the question comes in. Did Gammajack really die, or could he still be alive somewhere? The Incredibles 3 could answer that question with a huge twist, revealing that the old hero actually survived. It's not impossible. Far from it. Mr. Incredible himself managed to fake his death during the first movie. So, what's stopping Gammajack from doing the same thing now that superheroes have been legalized again? It would be fascinating to see him make a comeback, but still acting with that same reckless attitude of his, which would once again divide public opinion about the supers. And that's exactly where the Incredibles would have to step in and face Gammajack head-on, which might even drive him over the edge and push him to become a full-on villain once and for all. Frozone's wife. One of the most beloved characters in The Incredibles is Frozone, and one of the most memorable scenes ever is the one where his wife starts arguing with him while the poor guy frantically searches for his supersuit so he can help the Incredibles fight the Omnidroid. But we've actually never seen his wife on screen. All this time we've only ever heard her voice, which raises the big question. What does Frozone's wife actually look like? It would be awesome to finally see her show up in the next movie, this time as more than just a voice. And honestly, that wouldn't be hard to pull off. Originally, the plan was for her to appear in The Incredibles 2, but that idea was eventually dropped. There are even concept art showing what the character might have looked like. From what we can tell, her appearance matches those early designs, but still, nothing has been officially confirmed. So, it could all change in The Incredibles 3. Enjoying it? Then click one of the 2 videos we left on the screen and keep going with us. See you next time.